I'm Andrea.
And I'm Alicia.
This week on Crime 709, we're going to be covering a case of parental abduction.
That's right. But first, before we go into that case, we'd like to make a couple of shout outs.
And so from Facebook and Twitter, I've got Meg St. John.
That's right. I have Bonnie Bruce.
Thanks so much, you guys, for the couple of shout outs that you've given us. Brittany Reynolds as well.
Right. She's from all the way from Australia.
Ooh.
Which is pretty cool.
I love that.
I know. We also have Disha Suli.
Great. And also on Twitter, Big Tuna Leroy Luna. And I think he goes at Real Leroy Luna. That's his hashtag.
Right. And we're shouting him out specifically because he asked to hear he was hoping that he would be able to hear our Newfoundland accents.
Like he wants me to go like, what are you at, Luna Leroy?
What are you at, Buys?
Or it's Leroy Luna. So sorry. I could say that again. What are you at, Leroy Luna? What do you think? Is that a good
I think it's
accent?
good. I think we did great.
I don't know.
And I would also like to tell a little story about how I really fangirled this.
Ooh,
this
tell me
week.
all about it.
So through the jigs and the reels, we sent like a tweet to Tim Polari from the Missing Maura Murray documentary, the podcast, sorry.
Ooh.
And he followed us back.
He did not.
He did.
Oh my God.
And I said, I reached out, just like, thanks for following us back. You were a big inspiration, yada, yada, yada. And he instantly, I feel like maybe he's just a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday podcaster, but he did tweet me back. And he said...
That is so exciting.
I know, it was really, really exciting. And basically he just said, thanks. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us, which was pretty cool.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
We will be reaching out. Maybe not even for podcast advice, just for more like gushing about the Missing Maura Murray podcast, which everyone should really listen to because it's super interesting.
It's so interesting. It got me into podcasts. And I probably squealed and giggled. I was really excited about it.
I can totally imagine you doing that.
I know.
It's fun. Awesome. So on with the case.
Yeah, let's get on with it.
All right. So this week, obviously we didn't say who we were going to be covering, but it is...
We're covering the O'Brien brothers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the that's a hard one to say. The O'Brien brothers were 14, 11, and 4 at the time that they were abducted.
Right.
This day and age, they're actually 35, 32, and 26. That's projected, obviously. Obviously, they're still missing. This is an open-ended case. We don't know the answer to it. But if all goes well and if they are still alive, then that's the ages that they would be.
Right. And if you've listened to our previous podcasts, you would probably be applauding us right now for getting the math down pat, because that was just so easy for you, Andrea.
I did the math earlier. I used a calculator for it, believe it or not. That's awful.
I'm very proud of you, because I was just like, we don't need to know how old they would be today.
No, their ages are their ages.
Right.
Everyone when we're flawless and our ages don't matter. So
That's right.
That's right. So going forward, let's go into the introduction of how the boys actually were, what they were like in life, and maybe still to this day what they're like.
Right.
We know that Adam was the oldest. He was 14 at the time. He was born October 28th in 82. He was said to have been a really bright boy. He always wore braces on his top front teeth. I think that's more of a description than obviously a personality trait.
But if it's something that you would have been looking out for at the time that they went missing,
right.
It would be, you would want to know that information if you were trying to find them.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. We have Trevor. He's the middle child. And Diana kind of explains him to be more of a comedian. And, he was rambunctious and he liked horseplay. So he was the real spirited one of the family.
The class clown.
That's right.
And just to interject, I know that our listeners probably don't know who Diana is yet.
Right.
Diana is their mother, Diana Boland Saunders, and I believe at one point in time when she was married to the father was an O'Brien as well. So if anyone's doing some research out there, she does go by a couple of those names in previous searches for her on the internet.
Right. So when I was looking for information, I searched Diana Saunders and I hardly got anything. But when I did use Diana Boland, which I believe is her maiden name, that's where I got most of the information.
Okay, that's good to know. Then we're going to move on to our youngest little boy, who is 4 at the time. That's Mitchell. Mitchell was born on November the 29th, 1991, and he was described as pretty shy. And I know that you had said something to me earlier, Alicia, about his personality that his mom had mentioned.
Yeah, so basically, Diana was kind of trying to imagine what her boys would be like today. And she says, which is really sad, that Mitchell's personality is difficult to place because he was just a preschooler when he went missing. So she finds it a lot more difficult to imagine him as an adult compared to the other two boys because he was so young and his personality hadn't really developed as much as the other two boys.
Right.
So she finds it a little bit more difficult to place him.
And so the father that was involved was Gary O'Brien. He was born October the 17th, 1956. And he's described by Diana, his wife, as introverted and resourceful. So that's something to keep in mind. Did you gather anything on Gary as well?
Yeah, so I found a lot, actually. Well, I feel like there's a lot about Gary just through one of Diana Saunders' Facebook posts. So this I found mostly on their Facebook page for the missing boys, which we will link to on our Crime 709 page. So basically, Diana describes her husband as an electrician by trade, resourceful, intelligent, and quiet. He's a jack of all trades. He walked with his head down, never making eye contact. He would never initiate a conversation. He would just observe, smile, and store the information. He was a follower of world news and current events. He smoked, but didn't drink or do drugs, and she truly believes that he's capable of anything.
Ooh, interesting. That's like a mysterious thing to say about somebody, capable of anything.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Which, I guess, as we go forward with the case and we learn more about it, you'll kind of, you kind of agree with her.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You think it's, so like on the outside, maybe when you're looking in, you kind of think, okay, this family, I know that the family was split up because Gary was their non-custodial father.
Right.
And that's been written about. So that to me obviously states that the family did have a breakup. Maybe they were living in two different homes. But by any sorts of the imagination, I believe that on the outside, it probably looked pretty normal. I mean, parents break up all the time. Kids live with different, parents and family members. And I think probably no one ever thought anything of it.
No, and I do believe too that Diana Saunders, she had her own apartment, but Gary actually was still living in the family home in Torbay.
Gotcha. And let's talk about Torbay. Torbay is beautiful.
Oh,
I don't know if
beautiful down there.
Exactly. I don't know if anyone is from Newfoundland who's listening to this podcast, but obviously the coastline in Torbay, it's just breathtaking, and the scenery is unbelievable. I think it's a beautiful place to raise a family.
It really is. And people would describe it as, I guess, mostly like one of those picturesque towns. It's just a little town. People are close-knit. There's not much going on. It's just a really nice place to be.
Hop, skip it, a jump away from the mall.
Right?
You're in.
Stavanger Drive.
Go on, girl. You're all right.
You can Google map all this.
Yes, if you're not from here.
Right.
It's all coming back to you. So let's go to the date that the boys had been abducted. So it's a typical day. Gary, the father, did have visitation rights with the kids, I believe, and today was the day. That was the November 9th in 1996.
Yeah, so Gary, I guess their agreement was that he would see the children every Saturday. So November 9th in 1996 was a Saturday, and he was just supposed to be picking the boys up for a regular day.
Right. I know Diana had mentioned a couple times in some of the works that I read that Mitchell, the youngest, wasn't feeling very well. He was feeling a little sick. So she maybe had suggested, I think, to Gary, you know what, don't take the boys today. Mitchell's not feeling very well. I think Gary at the time did override that, though, and was like, nope, the boys are coming with me.
Yeah, Saturday was his day, and he wanted his kids. So he just said, have them dressed and ready, and I'm picking them up.
I'm there.
Right.
So rather unfortunately, when Gary did pick up the kids that day, that would have been the last time that Diana had seen her children alive and had seen her children at all, which is unbelievable. And I can't imagine what type of pain a mother or a parent goes through when that's the last time. You hold on to all those memories of your children and you go back through and wonder and what happened. We'll figure out a few different things that maybe happened and maybe some theories on what happened too with the boys.
And I also want to speak to just a little bit of like her maternal instinct. When she did call Gary to say that Mitchell wasn't feeling well, she wanted him to stay home. I mean, and I feel like that's probably, some people might go, whatever, he just wasn't feeling well. But I truly believe that was her maternal instinct kind of being like, don't let these kids go. Don't let these kids go.
Do you know what? I watched an entire few episodes on Oprah Winfrey. I love Oprah. I just love her. Anyway, Oprah, if you want to sponsor us, you can actually take this out if you want to. But I was watching a few episodes on Oprah where it's that gut instinct, that you know something's wrong, but when we act on it is when we can really take control of a situation. But when we don't, we let it slide, and we would have known that would have happened. So I know that and everyone does this in everyday situations. And there was a couple of, mentions of people who've been abducted and all this, and they went through that gut instinct, like something isn't right. I shouldn't do this. But they were like, you know what? Maybe it's just my stomach. I don't feel very well. They do it, and then things happen. So I feel like I'm a firm believer in just following your gut instinct, because it's going to take you to places you need to go.
Exactly. And if you get that feeling when your hair is just standing up on the back of your neck, I know that happens for some people. I mean, trust it. Your body knows. It has it built in reflexes for
radar.
That kind of thing. And this mother's instinct, I mean, I feel like there's nothing stronger than a mother's maternal instincts.
Oh my gosh, that's really sad and beautiful at the same time, Alicia.
I know. I feel terrible.
So let's get back to the story, because we like to rant on. He did call her Gary called Diana at 8:30 in that evening. So Saturday evening, the 9th, he called her and told her that he was not returning the boys to her, and that if she tried to get them, she wouldn't, because he'd built a trap for her.
So basically what he said on the phone was that if anyone tried to enter the house, he had it rigged with 2 400-pound propane tanks, and it would just blow up the house and the houses that were surrounding his. So it would basically, I don't want to say level a neighborhood, but it would cause a lot of destruction to the town and the houses surrounding them.
So at this point, I guess obviously it was a claim. When the police actually got there and found out that was actually true, he had done this. I mean, obviously now we're looking for a guy who's got 3 kids.
Yep.
What's happening? You know, he abducted these boys, and it is called parental abduction, obviously. But I mean, we're looking for this guy. Where is he? What's he going to do with the boys? Where is he planning on going from here?
Right.
And I know you had mentioned that Diana Saunders had said that her ex-husband Gary was efficient and maybe sly. Would we use that word? A little bit, maybe a little bit maneuvering. He could figure things out. He was smart.
I would say, I mean, just if he has the knowledge to rig those propane tanks to make the house explode and damage other things, I mean, there must be something more there. He obviously was intelligent and able to do these things.
Absolutely. Hashtag absolutely. So if you're listening, have a drink.
And Andrea said it first. It wasn't me.
That's hilarious. So obviously I don't want to inject anyone into my idea of who these people were or what they did, because obviously we can all have our own opinions. Gary was the man that he was, Diana's the woman she is, and the boys are the boys that they are. And I think that going forward, it's good to keep in mind that nobody knows anything at this point in time, and it's really just a guessing game.
Right.
I'd like to get into some things that have happened in the years since the boys had disappeared.
For sure.
I know that through research, some of Gary's friends had attempted suicide and succeeded.
Right. And also Diana states as well that Gary had a bit of a suicidal personality as well, and he was pretty self-destructive. So, that speaks to, I guess, what happened. Right.
Yes. So I think it's kind of an interesting idea that, maybe some of the friends did commit suicide, because if they did, this is a couple of friends that we've read about. Do they know something? Is there any involvement? Were they helping them escape? What was the deal with the friends committing suicide? I mean, obviously mental health is a huge thing these days. We're advocates for that. Right. I think that if anyone is having any thoughts or feelings, contact someone you love, contact your medical provider, and get things worked out.
Seek the help you need.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Alicia, you're taking over my brain.
Listen, you have to give that up.
I have to give this up.
That's my phrase.
I know, I'm so sorry. But it really is if things are going on with yourself, if these people knew something about the murders, let's come forward with it.
Right.
Don't harbor those thoughts. And if anyone knows anything about these murders, my gosh, please come forward. Say something to the RNC, to the RCMP. Gary O'Brien is currently on the most wanted list in Canada because he's still out there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, whether he is or he isn't, because it's not solved, they still are looking for him because there hasn't been any evidence stating that he's not around.
So it also says here that not only is Gary O'Brien, was he featured on America's Most Wanted, he was also on the Montel Williams show, and he's wanted by Interpol for their abduction as well.
Way.
So, yeah.
On a getaway.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So he has some felony warrants for his arrest out as well, which is his warrants are for kidnapping, attempted murder, crimes against life and health, and that's all can be found on the internet as well. These are his felony warrants.
Right.
So the last thing that we know is that Gary did drive a gray 1989 Ford Tempo with a Newfoundland license plate.
Right. And actually, around a year after the boys were reported missing, so it would have been in October 97, they found the engine assembly of Gary's car in the ocean just off a cliff in Flat Rock.
If the car had been found in Torbay or been found in Flat Rock, the way that the current pushes from the Strait of the Labrador Strait, it pushes it down. It pushes it down towards like the base of Newfoundland, and then we have the Gulf Stream, the hot Gulf Stream that pushes water up. So if the car had fallen off the cliffs, or if he had driven off the cliffs in Torbay or Flat Rock, because really we don't know where he had driven it off. Right. If he had, these are all theories. If that's what happened, then the car very well could have taken a year for some parts to show up.
Right.
I know anyone who's from Newfoundland knows that we have ridiculous weather. I mean, I do love Newfoundland, but snow, rain, and
wind,
like everything all in one day is awful. And the water can be just as temperamental with tides going all over the place.
Right, the swell here can get really crazy.
So if the car had been taken down, it could have been pushed out, pushed back in, and basically mulched through the pressure of the wave. So, I mean, that totally could have happened.
Right, and Diana Saunders, actually, she believes that the boys were not actually in that car. She believes that he just did that for a diversion, just like he rigged the house as a diversion to give him more, to buy him more time. So that's what she believes.
Like a little clue to follow, a little scent. Maybe this will throw them off our tracks.
Right.
With that being said, though, I wanted to do some research into like the background of, maybe traveling across Newfoundland. So if these boys, let's put our mind frame in the sense, that the boys are still alive. Right. And that Gary abducted the boys and drove across the island with them. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking Newfoundland is pretty large. It takes about 8 to 9 to 12 hours, depending how fast or slow you're driving and how many stops you take to get from St. John's to Port aux Basques, or even to Argentia, which are 2 ferry pit stops here in Newfoundland to get to North Sydney in Nova Scotia.
Right. So Newfoundland it's an island. Did we say that already?
Yeah, people don't know that.
If you don't know, Newfoundland is an island. So even though we are Newfoundland and Labrador is this huge, massive land that's connected to, Quebec. But Newfoundland itself is a full-on island, and to get off, you have to fly or you have to take a boat. There's no bridge. We don't have any access points. There's just the 2 ways.
Exactly. So I did some research into, like, if the boys had gone with their dad in a car across the island, okay, that would have taken so long. I mean, at this point in time, maybe the police were looking for him, but theorizing that he took the boys straight from the mother's house and drove across the island, called them from a payphone and said, I'm not taking the boys home, hung up the phone, got on the ferry and left. That could have happened. Right. But back in 1996, you did need to have proper identification to board a boat. Maybe not for the boys. They do require that these days. I know that Marine Atlantic stated to me that they do require a proper government identification, for anybody and everybody traveling. But I know that back in the day, maybe some things relax. How do we know? Right.
And also, so General Transport Canada rules are anyone over 18 years of age has to have a valid piece of photo ID. But anyone under the age of 18, they don't need any identification. And back then, they could probably just hop on, or maybe the news hadn't spread that far yet. The people, our local RNC was probably looking. RNC is Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. We also have the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Right.
So RNC is mostly St. John's and surrounding areas, and the RCMP would be the ones patrolling further out.
Right.
And so maybe the lines hadn't been crossed yet, and maybe they weren't aware of the information, and they could have slipped by.
Yep. I think that's a really great point to make because, I mean, like calling people back then, I don't know how quick they were to get things done. We don't know.
Yeah.
So if Gary had taken the kids across the island, someone would have had to have shown a piece of identification to get onto a boat. Whether he got onto a boat and hid in the trunk and had one of his friends drive, I don't know. The possibilities are literally endless with this because nobody knows, like I said.
Yeah, no one knows, but it is theorized that he did have accomplices. It's that people had to help him out along the way. We also don't know the exact timeline of events. We don't know if the house was rigged before he picked the children up.
Right.
We don't know if, the car was ditched by someone else. He could have easily picked the kids up, hopped on a plane.
Yep.
Put
a brick on the gas pedal and drove the car off into...
We really don't know. And so Diana Saunders, she truly believes in her heart that the children are alive, living another life.
Yeah. Maybe just brainwashed to believe that they're not who they really are.
Right. Or that their mother just didn't love them.
Right. And speaking of which, what's really kind of interesting about this, on April 22nd in 1999, an anonymous tip from a woman in Thunder Bay in Ontario, recognized pictures of the boys on a visa bill. So I'm assuming she just got like a visa statement or something. I don't know how that works, but she saw the boys and recognized them because she was the babysitter who had taken care of these boys. And she knew some really bizarre family details too, such as like one of the boys' nicknames that hadn't been publicly announced.
Right.
So she knew that before anyone else, which is kind of a good sign that they're still alive.
Yeah, but also the police tried to locate this woman.
Right.
And they tried to locate her right up until 1999, but they were unsuccessful. So they still, to my knowledge, have not found this woman. They haven't made contact with her.
So who is it? Someone trying to like falsify a lead, do you think?
I don't know.
That's so strange. I wonder.
It is strange, but it's so... But like
you
you
know
said...
what? Like you said that Diana had said Gary is a mastermind. Maybe he had someone plant an idea. Okay, no, I saw the boys in Thunder Bay, but it's really just another ploy to drag the police somewhere.
Exactly. To try to deter them in whatever way. I mean, Diana also states in some articles that she believes that the kids have joined some like religious commune, that she wouldn't put it past Gary to brainwash them into believing that that she doesn't love them and take them off to a religious commune with no TV or internet or really not much access to like outside life. She believes he could be completely capable of that.
Yeah, and I know the youngest, Mitchell, was a little too young probably even to... I know everyone has memories, and especially at that age, but maybe he's a little too young to remember the things that he and his mom did together. I don't know.
But, I mean, I'm sure you remember memories with your mother at the age of 14.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, yes.
Right?
At the age of 14, yeah.
I feel like at 14, my mom was my best friend. Yeah. I was very lucky.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know about the relationship between everyone, about the boys and their mother, but for how much advocating she does for them and how she still hasn't stopped searching, I can't imagine it was anything less than a loving home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I have to stop it. The absolutely again.
I didn't even notice that time.
Are people need to be drinking. They need to be listening to this late at night and have like, a glass of wine.
We should just start having wine because it's a Saturday today. So this is very strange for us to be recording on a Saturday.
We're going to bring a bottle of wine next time.
That's right. Maybe some champagne so you can hear it.
Oh my God, this
Wouldn't that be nice?
I love it.
There we go. That's our Saturday plan for next week.
It's a great idea. I love it. So, I mean, obviously, like I said, there are theories that they might be alive and there are theories that they might be gone right now.
May have passed.
There are some words for people, though, who do this with their family. So if Gary did indeed drive the boys off the cliff, which he could have done, I know that Diana had mentioned as well that she thought that he did have some suicidal tendencies. Mm-hmm. So people who commit these types of crimes are sometimes called family annihilators. I know he didn't necessarily take Diana's life, but if he did take the boys' lives, then that is his immediate family, and that he would have essentially annihilated his immediate family. There are some statistics as well about missing people that I want to read out if I can. As of 2016, so these are not updated stats, but these are all from, I believe, Stats Canada. 59% of missing persons who were reported were removed from missing persons list within 24 hours, and 92% were removed within a week. There were 1 in 4 children abducted by their parents or relatives will be murdered by their abductors. And that also, on the other side of the coin, apparently Japan has been a frequent destination for international child abductors as well, because apparently they have really lax laws, like for international custody battles. So they have a different system which allows people to go there. I know that's not great, but they do have different laws, like every other country has different laws. So there have been reports of abducted children, usually by a parent, fleeing to Japan from Australia, France, Greece, the UK, and the US. And all these kids and parents have ended up in Japan.
My God.
I mean, that would be a long trip for the O'Briens, but really not that far of a stretch.
No.
It could totally have happened. And we don't know.
Also, not necessarily, I mean, it's not completely related to this, but the Atlanta airport is actually one of the biggest airports for human trafficking.
No way.
Yeah, people bring their, I mean, it's mostly sex workers or abducted children, child pornography rings, stuff like that. It's usually, so people that work in those airports are highly trained to actually look for signs of human trafficking and child abduction.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. I don't know. Would I like to work in an environment where you're constantly on the lookout for these horrific things that you know are going to be happening to people?
Well, I mean, I think anywhere you work, horrific things can happen.
I know,
but
you're
at
right.
least if you're trained properly, then you might be doing a little bit of good.
That's true.
Right?
Yes, you're right.
And you
I
might
know.
be able to reunite someone with their family, which
I
would be
love
pretty
that.
awesome. So
I'm really hoping and praying for the boys. I'm really hoping and praying that they're still out there.
me too.
The thing is, I know it's been 21 years since they've disappeared. It's hard. I mean, that must be so hard on the whole family, both sides of the family, the O'Briens and the Saunders family,
Right.
to figure out what's going on. I do have some interesting other notes that I want to bring up too.
Okay.
That I have. So when it comes to parental abduction,
Right.
and I'm going to throw it in there because it could be a possibility as well, but if the boys are not with us anymore, then technically it would be considered a case of murder, which is what this podcast is technically all about.
Right.
If that's the case, if it is a murder, experts say that dads typically murder out of revenge, stating mental breakdowns are also most common for moms.
That was my gut feeling. I felt like if Gary had murdered his children, I truly believe in my heart that it would be out of, like, I don't want to say hate, but basically hate for their mother and not necessarily for the children. He
Right.
probably loved his children and didn't want her to have them. And I think that was really maybe his shot at really getting back at her for the rest of her life.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, my God.
Stop it.
You're absolutely right. I can't do it. I can't not do it now. You've got me ruined.
I love it.
Dads kill their children out of revenge after a partner has left the relationship. And there is usually a history of some domestic violence. So apparently as well, mothers kill infants. Fathers kill older children.
Right.
These are weird statistics. I mean, I don't know who figured out these things, because that would be a horrific, task to have to figure out. But these are what the experts have said.
I feel like with mothers killing their infants, it could have a lot to do with postpartum depression. Maybe feeling overwhelmed if they have multiple children. It could just be too much to handle. And they just have like a mental break someday. I really believe it. And then with the fathers, I do believe that it's total just rage and
It's a get back.
yeah.
I'm getting back at you for these years or this or that or...
Yep. And it may not be something that they planned at
paid-
all. It just happens.
Yeah.
I do want to speak a little bit about Diana's involvement in missing children's cases and a little bit of her activism now, and maybe give a quote here from Dr. Dizowitz. I think that's how we pronounce it. I'll leave the link anyways on our Facebook page, about how and why Diana is holding out a little bit of hope. So I'll jump into that direct quote. So it says, "You could talk about the chances of the boys coming back and say it's 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 1,000,000. But unless someone tells her otherwise, the chance is there. And I think everyone in her situation would feel the same. I think it's important as a community that we support Diana. If the boys are out there, we cannot give up hope. Diana needs to know we have never forgotten her boys. They are important, and I think that means so much to her." So that's, like I said, Dr. Zikowitz. I'm pretty sure I've pronounced it 2 different times now. I figure one of them has to be right. So she's from the Canadian Centre for Child Protection. So that's what she has said about that. And she's worked on hundreds of long-term cases. She also says that all it takes is for the right person at the right time to see it and feel it. Like, I need to share this information and I can't keep holding it in. So I know we have mentioned a few times that it just takes one person. And here we are back again at that same spot with these missing cases or unsolved murders, that it just takes one person to really make a difference.
Right. A recognition of a photograph.
Yeah.
An idea that pops into the head. Oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
A clue to who maybe Gary was. Something that he said years ago.
Anything.
Could be anything, really. And it just, like you said, takes one person. I have a quote from Diana, and maybe it's actually in what you were going to say, but I want to just flip it in there just for fun. "I will never end the search until my 3 precious sons are back in my arms and my life again, or until I take my last breath."
Yeah.
That is such a devastating quote for me, because I can't imagine the pain that goes through. I know I have a really silly story that I'm going to say, and the feeling is nowhere near this.
I was really hoping for a silly story,
really
because
silly
this is a very sad
story.
story.
My story's really not that silly in that term, but I mean, I
need to pick me up.
It's incomparable to Diana's feelings and case.
Okay.
But I had a cat, my poor little cat, so it's not going to be a sad story. I mean, it is going to be a sad story. I have more poor little cat.
Okay.
She was gone for 2 weeks. We were looking around, calling her name everywhere, couldn't find her. Drove to the end of my driveway and found a woman who was just walking up and down the road. And I was like, "Hey, have you seen my cat? Da-da-da, color." She was like, "I think I saw someone knock on my door and ask about that cat." And I was like, "Perfect. I mean, that's hope for me, right?" So she was like, "Let me get you the person's name." I called the person and they were like, "Well, we took that cat to the vet clinic." And I was like, "Oh my God, my cat's alive." I get there and unfortunately they show my husband a passed away cat who was my cat. But for those 2 weeks that we didn't know where she was,
You were hopeful.
oh my gosh, I was like, that's her voice, or that's her little meow. I can hear her. I know she's there. But she could have passed away right at the beginning of those 2 weeks, or she could have passed away at the very end. And the thing is, that pain that you feel, I know it's not comparable. I mean, I know it's a cat versus your children, but I think it's an understandable relation. I mean, anyone who's ever had anything missing.
It's a love.
It's a love, yeah. It's a love that you feel and a connection that you have that you don't know where it's gone, and that's hard. And until we had her in our little cat in our arms, that's when we were like, okay, we can stop the search, and we know. So, I mean, I feel for Diana. I totally do. I feel like until you have your boys in your arms, you really can't stop. You don't know.
I really thought you were going to give me a silly story and you were going to bring me up, but instead you just made me more sad now thinking about you losing your animals. And,
so sad.
You know, I really feel like you just need to tell me a knock-knock joke or something now and bring it back.
No, you tell me a knock-knock joke. Alicia's the best in knock-knock jokes. Tell us this one.
We'll leave that for like a blooper day.
Oh, God. That's really funny.
But yeah, so I mean, I get it. And I can't imagine the feeling she's going through. I understand how much she wants to hold out hope and everything. And I truly believe that if the right networking and if these stories and everything can get out and we can help in any way, then I would love for that to happen. I would love to see those boys come back home. My personal opinion which is not, it's not a happy one, is that the boys won't be coming home. And that's just by reading the story. I mean, I feel like, in my own personal opinion, that Gary, he just wasn't all there. There was something missing, and I really believe he wanted revenge. I don't know what kind of father can rig the family home to explode. I mean, and maybe he was even hoping that she would go to the house to try to find them.
Right.
That's scary for me to think that it was almost like he was baiting her with her phone call, because when he called and said that that she would never see the boys again, she asked, "Let me speak to my children." And he said later. He didn't say no, he said later. And I mean, that's crazy. I mean, she was with her sister at the time when she received the phone call, which was great, but if she hadn't have called the police, her sister hadn't called the police, and she would have gotten in her car and drove over there to look for those children.
Open that door.
That would be the end of it, you know?
Ugh.
And that's crazy to think. So I truly believe he was more diabolical, and
Do you know what?
You know what I think.
And like, you know, even when you think about that, and even think about the fact that maybe Diana would have went over and opened the door, maybe the boys wouldn't be missing. Maybe he would have been caught somehow. Maybe it would have changed the whole chain of events.
You never know, right? Maybe he just wanted her out of his life. It's just my theory, but I really believe that. I think his main purpose in all of this was to hurt her.
And you guys also do keep in mind, it is really hard to disappear. So if Gary wanted to disappear by himself, he would have had to do a lot, like get rid of IDs, get rid of literally everything he owned, prepare for this. But he is taking 3 young boys with him, and how to get rid of their fingerprint and you know, bookmark on the places that they've been, the people that see them. That's a really hard thing to think.
Yeah.
That can be comprehensible. I mean, I don't think he'd be able to get to do that.
No. And I think, too, that we're just giving him more credit. I don't want to believe that he's this smart, innovative man that everyone says he is. I want to think of him as someone that isn't even capable of doing this, because I feel like it's giving him too much credit.
It's cowardly.
Yeah.
If the children, I mean, certainly the children are abducted. Either which way, they're still missing.
Right.
It's cowardly to do that to your spouse or your ex-spouse, to their family members, to your family members.
I know. And like, let's be honest here. We see people traveling with children all the time. I don't know how a single father is going to peacefully cross the island. I mean, listen, if you can sit in your car with 3 screaming children to drive 12 hours across the island, and they're not saying, "Are we there yet? I have to pee. Are we there yet? I have to pee. I'm hungry." And if you can do that for 12 full hours by yourself, you're really committed, because listen, I wouldn't be doing it. And then even for air travel, it's screaming children, they're going to want their mom.
Yes.
Right? They're going to want their mom. And so for that, I don't believe he made it off the island. I do, however, wish he did.
Yes.
So that Diana can have some peace. I really, truly wish that he did make it off.
So bringing up some cases that we have in our recent news, I know some of you Newfoundlanders are probably thinking about our most recent missing person case. We have Courtney Lake, who went missing there
June 7th in 2017.
So she still has not been found as well. I'd like to probably do something with her case later on, and go into it a little bit more, because I think there's some really interesting things in there that we really do need to like full cover.
Yeah. And I would like to just give a list in case anybody knows these names. I want to kind of list off all of Newfoundland and Labrador's current missing people that's listed on the RNC government webpage. You can find it under the media tab on the RNC's website. So we have David Howlett, who was reported missing on December 3rd, 2015.
We have Daniel McKenzie, who is missing since July 31st, 1981.
Right. There's Nicholas Leonard. He was reported missing September 3rd, 1990.
Jessica Hepner, missing May 29th, 2015.
Right. There's Joshua Miller, who was missing since February 10th, 2013.
There's another Aaron Dragonetti, Missing November 21st, 2014.
We have Nam Kwan Kang, reported missing November 1st, 1996, and I'm very sorry if I butchered your name.
Pamela Asprey, November 12th, 1984.
Sharon Drover, December 29th, 1978.
Henrietta Millick, December 10th, 1982.
Daniel Joseph Pickett, October 25th, 2006.
And we're coming on to our case, Adam Mitchell and Trevor O'Brien. They were abducted and are missing since November the 9th, 1996.
That's right. And of course, their father, Gary Joseph O'Brien, reported missing the same day.
Right. So those are the current missing. And honestly, I haven't heard a lot about these people, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, we should be recycling these names through our news feed all the time. Maybe not our specific news feed, but here in St. John's, these names should be coming up over and over and over again because, I mean, maybe they went missing due to unsuspicious circumstances, but still one missing person is one too many.
Right.
So we need to figure out how we can get this taken care of. We need to figure out how we can find these people and give rest to their families.
Right. And I just want to also list the website here. I know we're giving you a lot of information, but I think it's all good information. And if you have they have a new website actually set up. I'm not sure how new it is, but during this whole case with the O'Brien boys, it came to light afterwards. So it's missingkids.ca, and that is basically an everything you need to know government website, and you can report a sighting. You can look up information on missing cases. And there's also a tip line. So it's a government tip line. It's 1-866-KID-TIPS or 1-866-543-8477. So if you have any information on the boys or any of our missing persons or children, you can use that tip line.
Well, Alicia, this has been a pretty informative podcast. It's been a pretty depressing podcast.
It is. Do you want to leave it on a more depressing note and read the letter that Diana Saunders actually penned to her children?
Dive deeper into depression here today.
Yeah.
All right, do it.
You want to go ahead, or do you want me to go ahead?
You read it.
Okay. So Adam, Trevor, and Mitchell. 21 years ago, Saturday, November 9th, 1996, our lives together as mommy and son was torn apart. I never knew that those last few hours together would end up being our last memories of each other. Hustle and bustle on a usual Saturday morning, Adam and Trevor delivering the morning papers to our neighbors. I recall that morning as if it were this morning. Trevor, you were excited to wear your new Chicago Bulls jacket to show your dad and your friends that day. Adam, you were planning to buy me a birthday card, and you, little Mitch, were not feeling well. Mitch, I did not want you to go with your dad that day, but your father insisted I have you ready when he arrived. I regret not following my motherly instincts. I am so sorry, doll. Boys, no matter what has been told to you, please know that not a day goes by that I won't be thinking of you. Not a day ends without me sending up heartfelt prayers for you. Not a moment have I lost hope that we will find each other with the powerful strength of our love. We will survive this dark period in our lives. We are all so incomplete and empty inside from this separation. Being together will heal us, complete us. Be strong, my angels, and know that your mom loves you with her whole heart. And I will until I take my last breath. I need you, and you guys need me. Life is short, and we never know when our time will come to leave here forever. Please let me know you are okay. Forever in my heart. Mom, XOXO.
That is so sad.
It's so sad.
Hey, Alicia, what do we got on the books for next week?
Oh, next week we're doing a really interesting murder. We are doing the murder of...
It's like a double murder, I think.
I think it's
like
a double
homicide,
murder.
suicide.
Yes.
It's really exciting. You guys can keep guessing if you want. And if you think you know what it is, you can post it on our Facebook page because we're not going to tell you.
We're not going to tell, but you guys can guess. And you can also check our Facebook page for all the information and the photos of the boys and everything we have today. So you can check it all out.
Awesome. Alicia, it's been a slice.